We are here with the final episode of our Outfield Rankings review, and we have some great names, including prospects like Jurickson Dominguez, Cruz, and even some veterans like Tyler O'Neill and Jurickson Profar. We have those names and more to break down on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominick Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Here, as always, with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Ahne, and you can find him on Twitter at Matthew_Ahne. If you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. We'll subscribe you to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. Or if you're listening on the audio side of things on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And lastly, but most importantly to you guys and Matt and I this time of year, give us a chance on the Subtext platform. Through Subtext, it's an in-depth, personalized experience through text messaging alerts that you're going to get right to your phone, offering so much more than we can in these 30-minute episodes. And this time of year, you're going to be getting our 2025 rankings, sleepers, breakouts, bust, and so much more. So if you are interested in giving us a chance on Subtext, you can find the link in our bio wherever you're listening, watching, or available on any of our social media platforms. And folks, right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started today. And then, once again, bet with FanDuel, the official partner of the NBA. And all right, folks, I mentioned up the top, this is going to be our last outfielder ranking review episode. And then once again, I want to preface this at the top. Our Matt and I's rankings are always skewed towards 5x5 head-to-head category leagues. That's what Matt and I specialize in. We always kind of try and give a little bit of points twist as we break these players down. But you know what, Matt? Let's just get right into it. Why don't you throw the names up on the screen and get us started off to you today?
You're so bossy.
Only with you, brother. Only with you.
It's all right. We all know on the bus. All right. So I'm excited to be here. I'll wrap this up. And, a lot of adjustments been made on the rankings, but here is the 25 through 36 for me. Cruz, Christian Yellich, Evan Carter, Michael Harris II, Tyler O'Neill, Anthony Santander, Pete Crow-Armstrong, Riley Green, Carrie Carpenter, Jason Dominguez, Jason Derulo, a.k.a. Cody Bellinger, and Brenton Doyle. Dom, what's yours look like?
All right, folks, let's jump on into my rankings, 25 through 36 at outfielder. At 25, I have Cody Bellinger. At 26, I have Riley Green. At 27, I have Christian Yellich. At 28, I have Jurickson Dominguez. At 29, I have Cruz. At 30, I have Tyler O'Neill. At 31, I have Anthony Santander, the bank himself. 32, I have Jurickson Profar. 33, I have Carrie Carpenter. 34, I have Reynolds. 35, I have Evan Carter. And 36, I have Seya Suzuki. And Matt, even, I kind of mentioned this in the last episode, and if you guys haven't seen any of our outfield preview episodes, they're very valuable. Outfield is a tough position to fill this year, so go check those out. But as we move on to 25 to 36, we start seeing even more of a difference in our rankings. And this is something I want to preface up at the top too. When you're getting to this range, your potential outfielder 2, 3, once again, when you get to this point in your draft, unless it's a points league, you're probably drafting for specifics. And especially by the time you're getting to your third outfielder, you might need power. If you need power, maybe you're taking Tyler O'Neill, Anthony Santander. If you need a little bit of batting average, maybe you'll go more with a Riley Green or a Brian Reynolds. So as we talk about these names today and where we have them ranked, you don't have to live by these rankings. It's more of a guide just to kind of give you where we like these players. But you want to draft for more specifics when you get into this point in your draft. But Matt, with that being said, as you look at our rankings here, is there anything that stands out to you, my brother?
Yeah. So I guess you're buying into the fake handbag on Canal Street. Is that what you're doing? With Jurickson Profar? It looks like for me, from where I'm standing, you think that the age 29 breakout is legitimate, and I'm sorry, age 31 breakout is the answer to all our prayers at literally OF 32. Can you please explain why you're going to buy into the fake Louis bag on Canal Street?
I love the reference, and any of our New Yorkers, will most likely get that one. So with Profar, the thing is, he was, the number one prospect in all of baseball. May it be, over 10 years ago at this point. So the talent was always there. I think the big thing with Profar is just the injury history. It is very lengthy. Never really, he had a couple seasons where he pushed, 130 games, but even in those seasons, was probably dealing with small injuries. I just really like what he did last year. And when you look at the underlying stuff, it's not like, one of those, okay, the underlying stuff doesn't really match what he did. It kind of backs it up. So last year, Profar, as a 31-year-old with the Padres, was an all-star. He has since moved to the Atlanta Braves, one of the best teams in all of baseball, especially for fantasy players. Profar played 158 games last year, 564 at-bats, 94 runs. He had 29 doubles, 24 homers, 85 RBIs. He stole 10 bags, and he hit 280. And one of the things that Profar has actually always been good at, which is going to help you points leagues players, is his play discipline. 76 walks to 101 strikeouts. I love to see that. That just tells me that the eye is there. He's the underlying stuff for batting average looked great for him last year. His batting average was 282. The plate discipline, all that stuff doesn't chase, doesn't whiff, walks very well. The underlying stuff for power, he's not really a big power guy. So, the 24 home runs, I think is kind of spot on. Wouldn't be surprised if it was maybe even a little bit lower last year. The sprint speed, also not like super crazy. But he's a guy that's willing to steal those bags if he's healthy. So, like the 10 bags, I don't think is ridiculous for him, even though he's not super quick. I just love that he's going to hit in the Braves lineup, man. He's projected to hit second behind Michael Harris, ahead of Austin Riley, Matt Olson, Marcelo Zuna, Ozzy Albies. Great spot for him in the lineup. So I could see Profar as like, a low 20s home run guy. The 94 runs he did last year is more than repeatable, if not more. 85 RBIs in that Braves lineup. I could see that as being repeatable. Like I said, 10 bags, not out of the question. And the batting average, plate discipline, I think is very repeatable as you look at the underlying metrics. That's kind of why I have him ranked where I have him ranked at outfielder 32. I think he's a great high-end outfielder number 3. I like him in that range. And like I said, I think a lot of the stuff is repeatable.
So, for starters, if you couldn't see on camera, I was chugging the haterade for this. Okay. That's what I think of Jurickson Profar's breakout last year. Now, let me tell you why. Okay. It's real simple. His career year before this year was 20 home runs. And that was back in 2019. In the same year, he hit 218. The year before that, 20 home runs, a 254 batting average. Okay. We even fast forward to, I don't know, let's just say 22, where he had 15 home runs. He batted 248. He had 58 runs in that same lineup and played 152 games. So it's right on par with what he did. On top of that, him being 31 years old, having that breakout, and literally hasn't hit 20 home runs since 2019. And now he hits 24 and has the career high of ribbies and runs. I'm sorry, I'm not buying into that. And along with the fact that he hasn't had 10 stolen bases since 21. Honestly, too, yeah, the batting average was 280, but that's because he just had great plate discipline. Sure, he's only really had those kind of metrics a few times over his career, which is fine. But here's the thing:
he's always been a great plate discipline guy. If I can get that out, I will say that.
Sure, but I mean, he's also had mediocre OPS, like 2023 at a 689, 21, 723, 21, 649, like there's nothing that really supports his breakout. And then you look under the hood, and let's go after this year. Let's go before 23. Average exit velocity difference, for instance, right? This year, 91 miles an hour, 23, 86. Let's go to 22, 87, 21, even lower at 85. Now, this all screams something you don't really say out loud, but, maybe a little A-Rod situation here at age 31. I'm kidding. I have no idea. No defamation lawsuit, please. But essentially, like, this is an astronomical kind of turnaround. Doing this at age 31, it's just not repeatable whatsoever. So with that, I'm not buying into it whatsoever. I do have the dude ranked, don't get me wrong, and at some point I'm willing to take the plunge. But when it comes to Profar, I can't even find him in my rankings because he's so far down low. I think I have him ranked in the 60s. I am not touching him with a 10-foot pole. And Dom, I'll give you a chance to rebuttal, but it's going to have to be on the other side of this. Guys, coming up next, might see Dom lose his hair on this one. I don't know. I kind of just ruined his rankings. We'll find out on the other side of this.
All right, folks, when the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you missed the opening tip-off or want to be in on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in on the action, and if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live play. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting, whether I'm backing my team for a late game rally or picking up a player to hit a clutch three. I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is super easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. And all right, folks, I talked about him yesterday. I'm going to talk about him again today, and then next week I'm going to come back with somebody different for you. But guys, on Victor Wembanyama, he's going to be the best player in the NBA if he already isn't. He's in huge second half after the All-Star game. Like I said, points, rebounds, blocks, I'm always taking the over. So, once you get over there on the app, it's super easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And then, all right, guys, I want to talk to you guys again about the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast Diamond Club on the Subtext platform. It's going to continue to be your guide, Bible to victory, this offseason, and we will continue into the regular season. Right now, you're going to be getting our 2025 rankings, sleepers, breakouts, bust, so you can be ready for your drafts, which are probably coming up in only a couple of weeks, probably under a month at this point with spring training underway. You're going to need that extra boost to get the advantage over your league mates. So join us on Subtext. Link is in the bio where you're listening, watching, and it's available on any of our social media platforms. So you're going to subscribe now, and we're going to elevate your fantasy baseball experience to a new level. And all right, Matt, with all of that being said, I don't have too much left to say on Profar. You make a lot of great points. I see everything you're saying. It's very hard to trust somebody, like you said, pretty much has a career breakout year at age 31. The thing I will say is that we don't have to take him as high as I have him ranked, and that's what I said. These rankings, we said it at the top. These rankings aren't, live or die by. It's kind of more of a guide at this point in your draft, and you're kind of picking what you need. You're going to take the guys you like at this point. But right now, over the last month on NFBC, the ADP for Profar, who once again is moved over to those Atlanta Braves, is outfielder 41, pick 174, and at that point, you're looking at him as more of like maybe a second utility. And I think that's a good spot. I think that's, a pretty good spot to take a guy like Profar. So you don't even have to take him as a starting outfielder. And then the 5 outfielder leagues, looking at him as more of like a 4th, 5th outfielder. I think that's a really good spot for a guy that has a lot of upside. And if you're watching on YouTube, you see Matt cringing over there. Matt's probably moving Profar down his rankings as we speak right now.
Yeah.
You came at me. I kind of got to sit back here and look at the rankings and kind of put you in the hot seat here for a second. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna do it to you. I'm one of your boys. Not that Profar is one of my boys, but I'm gonna call you out. I know we've talked about him a little bit this offseason, but I kind of want to know, why do you have Pete Crow-Armstrong as outfielder number 31? A little bit rich for my blood, but I'll let you go first.
All right. And I understand it. The thing is, he had a very up and down year last year, right? Like, he really didn't come up and live up to, what we thought he would be right off the bat. But what I will say is this, I'm going to pull up the splits, is that second half, he really did come back after being sent down and come back up and actually performed pretty darn well. And that's what kind of gives me the confidence into this year, in all honesty. You look at what he did in August and September, when he got the call back up through, 86 at-bats in August. He had 17 runs. He had 5 doubles, 2 triples, 4 bombs, 17 ribs, 6 stolen bases, and batted .314. On top of that, in September, He had 90 at bats. He had 15 runs, 2 doubles, 3 bombs, 10 ribs, a stolen base, and batted 256. A little bit more of a rougher month, but definitely adjusted. When you see a young player, go down and then because they were struggling and then get the call back up and adjust and actually improve and actually are to give you a glimpse of what they were in the minors, that's when you start getting hope for that player. And, if you're not familiar with, Pete Crow-Armstrong's history of what he did in the minors, you could tell that he actually has somewhat of a possibility to be a really good player. You know, Look what he did in 23 in the minors. He had 298 at bats. He had 68 runs. He had 19 doubles, 5 triples, 14 bombs, 60 ribs. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong one. That's just from one team. Let me scratch that. Sorry, 438 at bats, 98 runs, 26 doubles, 7 triples, 20 bombs, 82 ribs, 37 stolen bases. Again, 37 stolen bases, and batted 283. His power, he actually has some decent power. We didn't really get to see like the nice average exit velocity. I believe he has. I believe he has a 40 out of 45 power ranking on Fangraphs, and he can hit home runs. I think he won't really be like a true like okay, he's like a 35 home run guy, but he has the ability to hit anywhere from 25 to 27 home runs. The stolen bases, he's quick as hell. It's definitely something possible. And I mean, quite honestly, you look at the batting average, he's been able to do it his entire minor league career. He may not be a 300 hitter, but 260, 265, 270, definitely in the wheelhouse. For this year, I'm thinking maybe 22 to 25 home runs and 25 to 30 stolen bases, batting probably about 255, 260. And with the improvements that Chicago has made as a whole, he should be able to take advantage and perform up to at least where I have him ranked.
I hear you, and the whole thing is he does have upside. I'll start by saying that he like I said, he does. But my thing is with PCA, that's what they call him out there in Chicago, is I think the upside is a bit limited. I know he has speed, and I think if he hits in a good spot in the lineup, which kind of I do want to see where roster resource has
Seventh right now, which is the limit.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of like the dead zone of the lineup too. So I feel like he's limited in runs and RBIs. I disagree on the power. If MLB.com, when he was a prospect, had him on the 40-80 prospect scale, had him rated a 50 power, which is below average. So I don't think there's too much pop in the bat. If he hit 15 home runs, I'd be surprised, to be honest with you. So I think he's just really going to be a speed specialist this year. I think you take him if he needs steals. I think he could do that in a plethora. I just kind of question everything else. I don't think he's like definitely going to be a good batting average guy or definitely going to be a good runs or RBIs guy. And like I said, power to me is questionable at best. He is coming off the board as outfielder 42, in ADP, pick 166. So that's not a bad spot. That's kind of, like I said, where Profar's going. If you want to take him as like your second utility back because you need speed, I'm not mad at that at all. I don't see the breakout. I don't see the breakout coming this year. I'm not a big PCA guy, and that's why I have him ranked a bit lower than Matt and consensus. But Matt, let's jump back in here. And is there somebody now that maybe that you love, or somebody that we see that we both love, or you can even go back. You could come back. I mean, if there's somebody that we see a big difference on, either way, let's get into it. I'm having fun here today.
No, I mean, so like we're looking at a big difference of a guy, but I mean, I guess it's just a matter of preference at this point. We both have him in our 25 to 36, and it's not really just like, hey, say why you rank him lower, but let's talk about 2025 and Evan Carter's season. But guess what, guys?
I do like me some Evan Carter. I will say that I do like Evan Carter.
Yeah,
not as
and
much
what
as
I'm
you.
gonna. Yes, of course. Now, guys, you're just gonna have to wait for the other side of this. Okay. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious. Crack into a good source of protein with wonderful pistachios. Wonderful pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no shell variety, which I truly do. This is not a script. It's the perfect grab and go snack for a busy day, which is true. Whether I'm snacking at my desk or on a road trip, it's just quick protein boost. There's always that's always good to go. And if you love cracking open a shell every day for the satisfying crunch, the in shell option are just a classic favorite. Who doesn't love doing that too? Get snacking and cracking with a snack that packs protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. And all right, so I hinted it. We talked about it, kind of teased you at the beginning of the before the break, and I guess we can get into it now. So, Dom, I mean, yeah, we're what literally 8 spots apart. If that, my math's a little off. Actually, probably more like 7. Um, it's at this point, it's really not a big deal. What do you expect from Evan Carter in 2025?
See, my thing with Evan Carter is I really do love him, and I think he is somebody that could potentially have the breakout year that that you see and that I see. We just don't have to draft him that high, and I think that's where I'm just like, all right, I'm trying to pull up ADP here. I'm like, I feel like I just can't find his name. I feel like I'm blanking here on Evan Carter, but I know he's a bit lower than where we both have him ranked. So I wouldn't move him up. Okay, well, actually, wow. You know what? Let's because Fantasy Pros takes 5 different platforms and combines their ADP to make their own ADP, right? Or to give you like a consensus ranking, basically. Evan Carter, 70th outfielder, pick 285. I have NFBC pulled up too, and I'm sure he's going to be a little bit higher, but I don't see him being like drastically higher than that. Actually, yeah, outfielder 65 last month on NFBC, pick 258. So I just don't see the sense in moving him up any higher in my ranking if I don't have to. I have him ranked where I think the talent is, right? I have him ranked below guys that have done it before, have been healthy and stuff like that. But then I say, hey, I know Evan Carter's talent level, and that's why I got him ahead of like somebody like say Suzuki. And then if you have us on subtext, you'll have the rest of my ranking. You basically see everybody else that I have behind Evan Carter. And let's not forget that he did play 45 games in 2024, as a 21-year-old with those Texas Rangers, of course, Evan Carter. 144 at-bats, 23 runs, 6 doubles, 2 triples, 5 homers, 15 RBIs, 2 steals, 15 walks to 43 strikeouts, huge step back in that department, and hit 188. So there is the chance that, it might take him a little bit of time to bounce back from the injury and, get things going. So I'm just not going to push him up my rankings any higher than I think I have to. I think that's the sweet spot. I know, with my rankings, I take account into all sorts of leagues, home leagues and stuff like that. And Evan Carter is a guy, spicy name. Everyone remembers him, big prospect, so I have him at the spot where I think I'll be able to draft him where I want him. Once again, probably can get him as like a second utility bat, if you play in a 5 outfielder league, 4th, 5th outfielder. And I think that's the sweet spot. If you want to jump him up a little bit because you like him and he starts killing it in spring training, yeah, sure, we could do that. But I like him at 35. I think that's a sweet spot for a guy. I don't have to really draft much higher than that. And especially in, maybe in leagues I'm in with you, of course. But, otherwise, don't really think I'm going to have to take him much higher than that.
Well, the thing is, I'm not going to also jump up ADP. You play the game, right? So, like the way I draft and the way I approach a draft is much different. My rankings aren't dictating where I'm picking a guy. It's who I'm deciding to pick between guys. So you use ADP and then you use your tiers and you base it off of what you're going to get. Just because I have Evan Carter at 27 doesn't mean I'm going to go ahead and pick him as the 27th overall. I'm going to take advantage of that ADP and I'm going to get him much lower. Dom just knows he's probably just going to have to go around earlier on me if he has to get him. That's really just about it. But, he's a target of mine this year. I love Evan Carter. The thing is, going into last year, we were drafting him as a top 20 actually outfielder. And unfortunately, the stress fracture just laid him up. I think he was dealing with it the whole time, trying to manage it. And he tried to ramp up multiple times last season and just wasn't able to make it out on the field. So this year coming off of, there might be a slower start, but also too, he might just be just fine. I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of exposure on him throughout the spring training, and we might see some phenomenal stuff as long as he's healthy. The thing is health. If I start hearing he's not healthy, he's going to fall down my rankings. But right now, all my expectations, everything I'm reading, should be healthy. So Evan Carter, the reason why I'm so excited for the kid is his rookie year. You don't see a guy come up and hit 308 right off the bat and then carry it through the playoffs all the way to the World Series and win yourself a World Series as a rookie and be a big proponent of that game without having some true talent and being able to translate into the bigs. There's steps milestones you want to look at these young players when they start doing it in big moments, two, performing consistently when they get the call, and right off the bat, it tells you they're going to be somebody special. Evan Carter has a 5-category upside, and I'm really excited to get him. The price is unbelievable. I'm drafting him everywhere. Just be sure to draft like with ADP as your kind of your guideline of where guys are going, and then prioritize from there. Not use it as a true, blanket statement. This is where I'm going to grab a guy, because then you're going to get in trouble going after my rankings. I have guys where they're going to finish, not where I'm going to draft them. But anyway, let's go. Digress, Dom. Give us a guy that either we agree on or a guy that just you're targeting in this range of players.
So once again, it's at this point, it's kind of just like who preference, what you need on your team. But there's one guy here that we do have a little bit of a difference on. And I feel like we've hardly talked about him at all. So that's why I want to bring up the name. Cody Bellinger. I have Cody Bellinger as outfielder number 25. You have Cody Bellinger as outfielder number 35. Got a 10 spot difference on him. Goes over to our New York Yankees. Why are you just a little bit lower on him than I, or just something along the lines of that take? Because like I said, it is preference at this point.
So, I mean, we've talked about Cody Bellinger when we were talking about first base rankings, I believe. And it's really just I'm not buying into what he did. And I'm not buying into, you know, the hype of him coming to the Yankees, in all honesty. Yeah, it's a shorter porch. Yeah, he's going to want to perform. But, I mean, the team itself, the Cubs were doing just fine. And the addition of Kyle Tucker would have just been the same thing. And I don't really see what everybody else is seeing. Last year he had 516 at bats, 72 runs, 23 doubles, 3 triples, 18 bombs, 78 ribs, 9 stolen bases, and batted 266. He played almost a full season, missed 30 games, but still managed to get the 516 at bats. Like, that's a good season. I don't think he would have cracked more than 22 home runs in the 30 games. And, it just doesn't do it for me. Then you look under the hood, and as I'm pulling that up, nothing really supports some game-changing move is going to do something for him. Ex-WOBA was 301. Ex-batting average was 242. The ex-slug was 391. The average exit velocity was 87.8 miles an hour. He was barreling only 6% of the time, creating hard contact only 32.9% of the time. Launch angle was kind of low, too, at 32.9%. And bat speed is down, entirely. And he chased like a crazy person. The only thing he didn't do was whiff and strike out. He would manage to, quasi walk at a decent rate. I don't think the move is going to really benefit him. Plus, my rule, guy on a new year, new team, even though he's playing for a contract, I just don't see it. I don't see him breaking out and doing it and having this bounce back season. He's not a young pup anymore either. He's going to be 30 this year. We've the opportunity to turn the ship around, I think, has left the docks and has sank in the middle of the Atlantic like the Titanic. So for me, the reason why I have him where I have him is more of just he's better than all the other guys at this point, and there's some upside. Whereas I don't really. That's the best I can do for him. I didn't even have him. I had him barely at my first base rankings in my top 12, and I'd probably roster more for that than I would for an outfielder.
I hear you, Matt. I definitely hear what you're saying. I'm going to spin a different kind of story here with Bellinger. I kind of want to look at the last 2 years for Bellinger, and I want to combine them because I don't think he was as bad as he was last year, but he might not necessarily be as good as he was in 23, right? And let's forget, the 2023 season with the Cubs for Cody Bellinger was absolutely phenomenal. 130 games, 499 at-bats, 95 runs, 29 doubles, 26 bombs, 97 RBIs, 20 steals, and he had 307. So I kind of just want to take the median of the 2 seasons, right? If you take the median of those 2 seasons, he played 130 games in both, so it's not hard to, complicate that at all. It's 84 runs, 26 doubles, 22 homers, 88 RBIs, 15 steals, and a 286 batting average. And the thing is, I think the power plays in New York. If Cody Bellinger would have played all of his games in Yankee Stadium last year, he would have hit 24 home runs. If he would have played all of his games at Wrigley Field last year, it would have been 15 home runs. So Wrigley Field definitely suppressed the power there for Bellinger. He's kind of a guy that the underlying stats his whole career have never really lined up with his actual performance. So he's one of those guys that's kind of like an outlier when you look at the underlying stuff. It necessarily doesn't always line up with what he does. So I think he is a guy that could tap into 25 home run power. I believe he's going to hit in a good spot in that Yankees lineup. Pulling up roster resource as we speak. He's projected to hit third. Great spot in that lineup, right behind Aaron Judge. Right behind Aaron Judge, right behind him, he has Jazz, Stanton, and the rest of those boys. I think there's a world where, like I said, could it be 80 plus runs, 90 RBIs with 15 steals and 25 home runs with a 285 batting average? I think that's a definite possibility for a guy like Cody Bellinger. And I think he's going to have a strong year with the Yanks.
I mean, I hear your argument, and this is my closing argument on him. It's more of, we're going to give him an outlier year from he hasn't really performed at peak level that we've had expectations since 2019. And yes, he
I said, he had a great 2023. He had a monster 2023.
That was his outlier year. You know what I'm saying? 20
before that.
2019. So you're going to go from 23 to 2019, even with the COVID season in between. It's been a bit since he's been Cody Bellinger. And that's the thing. We had one outlier year in between 22 and 24, and we're going to give the mean. I think you take the 3, and it's more likely he hits in the teens in the home runs, and the average is kind of where it is. And it's kind of okay. The bonus is being a Yankee hitting in front of Judge. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's really where the bonus is. The runs and ribs are probably going to be in play, but I don't think the power and I don't think the average are going to be seriously contenders. And that's why he is where he is in my rankings. But, we don't have much time. Do you have a quick rebuttal? If not, I'm going to get us out of here.
Just once again, he would have hit 24 home runs if he played all his games in the Yankee Stadium last year. So I think the power plays. But that's going to be all, guys, for today. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. And shout out to our everydayers and new listeners for making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. And after you make us your first listen, go check out our boy Sully over at Locked On MLB and give him your second listen of each and every day. He's doing a great job over there covering spring training and all that fun stuff this time of year in a different way than we do. So until next time, folks. Soya.
Peace.